Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm Ross, and today we're going to be looking at the Leviathan box set Tyranid datasheets. So a couple of things to mention in this one. One, I'm not the biggest Tyranid player. I have dabbled with them a few times, so there could be a few things I might get wrong in terms of how the force works as a whole compared to Tyranid players who are ones that probably know their force much better than I do. And the other thing to mention is that we don't have access to all the datasheets yet for the codex. So a few of these are going to be looking at, we won't know their combination with leaders, we won't know them with stratagems yet. We are looking at them a bit more isolated here and looking at them really comparing to themselves and also the rules that we know for 10th edition so far. But it does give us an idea of how effective these units are because we can compare them to the Space Marines, see what stats are really impressive compared to each other. So with that, let's have a look at the datasheets. First unit we're going to come to, and it is the unit I was most excited in the Leviathan box set to see the rules, is the Nuerotyrant. So we have movement 6, toughness 8, save 4+, wounds 9, leadership 7, obsec 3 and 4 up invul. In terms of survivability, I would have maybe liked this to have been toughness 9 and a 3+ save, toughness 8 and 4+, basically matching the invul, is a little bit fragile for my liking. Psychic Scream, which is its ranged weapon, 18 inches, attacks 2d6, Bliss skill NA, strength 5, AP -1 and 2 damage. It ignores cover, psychic and torrent. Also has Neurotyrant claws and lashes, which is melee, attack 6, weapon skill 3+, strength 5, AP 0 and damage 1. Now in terms of the weapons there, the Neurotyrant claws and lashes, I'm not really surprised that it is not so big in combat. And the Psychic Scream is okay. If it was damage 1 it would have been devastatingly bad. At least damage 2 will get rid of sort of that mid-tier unit. So okay, but I don't like it being random amount of attacks. 2d6 seems maybe a bit low. Heck, I might have gone with 3d3 in all honesty, might have actually been a better choice. Maybe 4d3 in all honesty. That would be you'd have like a minimum amount of attacks and you know that you're getting some out of it. Just a bad 2d6 roll could be quite lackluster at the worst of times. In terms of abilities, we have Synapse with the keywords, that'll be probably quite important. Leader, Shadow in the Warp and Fly. And then Node Lash, which is Psychic. This unit, the unit that is led by this unit gains +1 to hit, and if attacking a battle-shocked unit gains +1 to wounds. Psychic Terror, which is Psychic. When you unleash Shadows in the Warp, subtract 1 to battle-shock tests taken by enemy units. Synaptic Relays, in the command phase you can select 2 Tyranid units within 12 inches. Until the next command phase, they are considered to be in synaptic range. You can use the floating models beside the Nuerotyrant to represent this, which I think is quite cool. We'd expect something kind of from them as separate units, but again, I like the idea of markers, so that is quite handy in some ways. And it can be attached to Neurogaunts and Tyrant guards. In terms of guard, you've got a choice between mass chaff or elite troops, and honestly I'd aim towards elite troops. We still need to see a bit more of the stats when it comes to Tyrant guards. But the Neurogaunts themselves I'm not that impressed with. I think you're going to get them really, really cheap, and so they're just going to act as additional wounds. At least Tyrant Guard, you're going to benefit from that +1 to hit and potential +1 to wound. And in terms of everything else, I think there's going to be a lot of competition when it comes to leaders in Tyranid Codex because there are a lot of them there. But a well-timed Shadow in the Warp could be devastating towards an enemy's army. Honestly, I am not too impressed with this unit yet. I would have preferred maybe a little bit more, possibly more ranged attacks to make it more of a ranged threat, and then it buffs other units as well. Simply having the Psychic Scream and then the buffs on top of it is not exciting me too much so far. On to the next character, which is the Winged Tyrant Prime. Now this is movement 12, toughness 5, save 4+, wounds 6, leadership 7 and obsec 1. We have the Prime Talon, which is a melee weapon, attack 6, weapon skill 2+, strength 6, AP -1 and damage 2. It is Synapse with the keyword, Leader, Shadow in the Warp, Deep Strike and Fly. It is an Alpha Warrior which gives units its leading, sustained hits 1 and death blow. If this is destroyed in melee and has not fought, roll a d6, roll 4+, then this unit can fight once the model's unit has completed their attacks. So it does have Synapse and it does fly, which is quite good. Can be attached to Gargoyles, Tyranid warriors with melee or ranged bio weapons. So it has sustained hits 1, which is pretty good. Adding that onto just about any force is quite useful. If you are getting mass volume of attacks, very, very good. So I can see whether it's going to be good in Tyrant warriors. could be quite good. Whether it will be on gargoyles, I'm not sure. Again, I've always seen Tyranid Wars as more staple choices. Its speed may lead it to being an affordable way to spread synapse, which overall is fine. But I'm just looking as not truly inspired, really. Maybe as a backup, depending on its points, could be quite good. But then again, you are competing with things like the Hive Tyrant, which is infinitely more damaging, probably, when we see the stats on that. As a sort of backup unit, it could be fine. We're just going to really see what the Tyranid Warriors offer, and also, well, really its points cost. I think that will justify a lot of this unit. On to another unit here, which is the Barbgaunts. Very, very interesting unit. I like to see more small creatures added to Tyranids, and I think this perfectly fits the bill. So in terms of stats, movement 6, toughness 4, save 4+, wounds 2, leadership 8, and obsec 1. And they are armed with biocannons, which is 24 inches, attacks d6, bliss skill 4+, strength 5, AP 0, damage 1, blast and heavy. And they are Xeno, claws and teeth, which is melee, attacks 1, whim skill 4+, strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. They have synapse, but they don't have the key words. They have disruption bombardment, which in your shooting phase, after this unit has shot at an infantry unit and hits it, until the end of your opponent's next turn, that unit has -2 movement, -2 to advance and charge rolls. Now this is very interesting because they could be quite good in countering horde units. They do have blast after all, so they can rack up a number of attacks, just rolling lots of d6, and then when they're heavy, if they stay still, they're a bit better. So there's a chance that these guys could be good for anti-horde. But more importantly is that their ability, which is the -2 to movement and -2 to advance and charge, I believe by wording, actually affects every unit that they do hit. So if you split fire, or if you manage to hit multiple units for whatever reason, then all of those units should be affected by the -2 movement, -2 to advance and charge, and that could be a real pain. So very, very intrigued to see how that works, because you could just slow down your enemy's army massively. Anything that was 5-inch movement are suddenly only moving 3 inches, and that is getting you nowhere across the board. So very, very interesting unit. Not only are they good for anti-light infantry, but also maybe good at slowing down elite infantry. Maybe depending on points, these could be an absolute staple. Von Ryan Leapers next, which I thought was a very interesting name for a unit. Now, one thing I'd say is, looking into a little bit of research in these, there does appears to be much older lore talk about these in previous codexes or other sources, so it's not something that's appeared out of nowhere, but it's just interesting they are called that. I just thought it was interesting instead of just Leapers, but I do know in some cases with Tyranids they are named after the planets in which they're first maybe found, so that might be the reason. Again, I'm not a lore person when it comes to these sort of things, but it's just when I saw Von Ryan's I was a bit confused by it. Either way, I'm talking about stats. So we have movement 10, toughness 5, save 4 up, wounds 3, leadership 8+, obsec 1, and invul save of 6. Very interesting that side, because that movement 10 is very, very fast for an infantry based unit, so that is very, very good. Leaper Talons, which are melee, attack 6, weapon skill 3+, strength 5, AP -1 and 1 damage, and they are synapse but not with the keyword, fight first, infiltrators and stealth. And they have Pouncing Leap, which can use heroic intervention for 0 command points, even if it's already been used this turn. I think when it comes to these, they do fulfill a sort of similar role to Lictors, which is disrupting your opponent. I think it's really going to be a sort of deciding factor between those two. Having Infiltrator, Stealth, and being extremely fast is a fantastic combination, just allowing you to get onto an objective or punish an enemy for using poor deployment. These guys could do the job, which might be quite good. Really going to be a difference of, do you have a unit of these, maybe 2 units of these, or maybe do you have a Lictor or 2 placed around the field, and really just looking for ways to get into your opponent's battle lines or other locations. I think they are a good unit. I like them so far. Hugely fast, have Infiltrator, and have Stealth and Fight First. There's a lot to like on this unit in and itself. So we'll see on points when they come out how good they are, but yeah, as an initial look at them, I do like the potential as a fast-paced infiltrator unit to get into your opponent's lines early. On to some of the most iconic troop choices out there, and some of the oldest models now with their updated flashy new models is the Termagants. So they have movement 6, toughness 3, save 5+, wounds 1, leadership 8+, and obsec 2. Honestly, completely what I kind of expected from them. Didn't expect really anything different on that side. Maybe OBSEC 1, but as troops they are trying to give that OBSEC 2 side to make troops of that sort of variety seem more important to holding the field. In terms of the ranged weaponry, they have the Flesh Borer, which is 18 inches, attack 1, weapon skill 4+, strength 5, AP 0, damage 1 and assault. Termagants Spine Fists, which is 12 inches, attack 2, bliss skill 4+, strength 3, AP 0, damage 1, assault, pistol and twin linked. Then Termagant Devourer, which is 18 inches, attack 2, bliss skill 4+, strength 4, AP 0 and damage 1. Not sure which one best to go through in this. I guess it would be more definitive on what you're playing against and maybe which one is the most affordable. After all, when it comes to Termagants, I want them cheap and cheerful. In terms of melee, they have Xenos Claws and Teeth, which is melee, attack 1, weapon skill 4+, strength 3, AP 0 and damage 1. They are Synapse, but they don't have the keywords, they just have the sort of faction rule. And then Skulking Horrors, once per turn, when an enemy ends a normal, advance or fallback move within 9 inches of this unit and not within engagement range, it can move d6 inches, which is quite good. Allows them to sort of get away if your opponent gets a little bit too close to them. So you might be dealing with these guys in range rather than combat because you just might not be able to catch them. I think cost is going to be the real determining factor of this unit, because really you are going to be able to retreat, get away, but you're just going to be cleared out by bolters anyway, so it is very much how point efficient they are. But the main thing I'm thinking about here is when it comes to, well, how effective are they going to be against Termagants? Termagants, when you can see the rules on them, are going to be the combat equivalent, and when it comes to chaff units, I prefer them to be able to perform better in combat. Reason being is that if I need to contest objective marker, I prefer to be throw this unit in there and hope for the best, see what units of my opponents I can drag down, maybe swamp them with units around them, versus Termagants, which will probably shoot, but they won't be able to control the objective because that's too close, versus Termagants, which will actually be able to jump on with the opponent and at least fight out for the point. So it'll really be a bit of a deciding factor on that one between the two of them on a personal view. But yeah, really interested to hear what people think of Termagants. Really fantastic to see them get an updated model. I didn't know how I felt about the updated models till I saw side by side of the models compared, and there is huge improvements on them, so it's fantastic to see. On to sort of the newest chaff unit, and this is the Neurogaunts. Now these are movement 6, toughness 3, save 6+, wounds 1, leadership 8 and obsec 1. They are only armed with Xenos Claws and Teeth, which is melee, attack 1, weapon skill 4+, strength 3, AP 0 and damage 1. They are Synapse, but not the keywords, and Neurosights, which is while this unit is within Synapse range, it does have the Synapse keywords. Again, I think points will determine this unit in a lot of ways, because they might be an affordable way of just spreading a huge amount of Synapse, which will be very helpful of controlling your battle lines and making your units more, effective when they might be battle shocked. However, it really sort of depends how this edition goes. It might be more effective than relying on your opponent to fail battle shock tests to just destroy them, to wipe them out. In which case you'll find that your units are more destroyed than being battle shocked. Though I do imagine battle shock is going to be a lot more important in this edition than sometimes morale has been in the past. Really, otherwise, they are just poorer in every way. It's going to be, now, when it comes compared to them, they are a purely melee force, and they're going to be descending against Termagants. I'm going to guess Termagants will probably have obsec 2, and they're going to be vastly better in terms of combat, or at least partially better, so points are going to be a huge factor in this one. Really intrigued to see what might be going on here. I think they're a cool unit, I think the models are fantastic, but in terms of the usage on the battlefield, we'll have to see. On to the big creatures in the Tyranid force, because of course we're going to get some more big creatures, and we've got the Psychophage. So Psychophage has movement 8, toughness 9, save 3+, wounds 10, leadership 8+, and obsec 3. As the Psychoclastic Tyrant, which is a fantastic name, and it's 12 inches, attacks d6, no bliss skill, strength 6, AP -1, damage 1, ignores cover and torrent, and has talons and bentatankled maw. Sure, which is melee weapon, attacks d6 +1, weapon skill 3+, strength 6, AP -1, damage 2, and anti-psycher 2+, and devastating wounds. So it is Synapse, but it's not got the keywords. Deadly Demise 1, Feel No Pain 5+, Biostimulus Aura, which is 6 inches aura while a unit is within range, gains 6+ Feel No Pain. Feeding Frenzy, when targeting a unit below starting strength, +1 to hit, and when targeting a unit below half strength, +1 to wound as well. Not sure how I feel about this one. This random amount of attacks makes it far too swingy, especially compared to Screamer Killer, which we'll look into in a minute. Even with Anti-Psyker 2+, I would still prefer the Screamer Killer. I've never rated 6+ Feel No Pain. On average, adding 1 extra wound every 6 wounds is not great, adds a bit of return, but not as much as I would like it to. And in terms of damage, even against Psyker Army, I think it's just going to be outclassed, and as a survival bonus, I'm just not seeing what it offers either. And finally, we are coming to possibly the highlight of the box set in terms of the Tyranid side, or at least when it came to the reveal, was the new Screamer Killer model. A fantastic homage to the previous model, way back in editions past, way before my time of actually starting 40k. And it is really cool to see a combination of homage but also fantastic new sort of pose and just really cool looking model, so that's fantastic to see. In terms of what it can do, it is movement 8, toughness 9, 2+ save, wounds 10, leadership 8+, and obsec 3. As the Bioplasmic Scream, which is 18 inches, attacks d6 +3, plus skill 4+, strength 8, AP -2, 1 damage, and is assault blast. And it has the Screamer Killer Talons, which is melee, attacks 10, whip skill 3+, strength 10, AP -2, and 3 damage. It is synapse, not keywords, and deadly demise. And it has Death Scream. In your shooting phase, after this unit is shot, choose one unit that has been hit by this unit. This unit must take a battle shock test at -1. Again, I've said this a lot, that points will determine a lot of this, and however, if it was toughness 10, it would have been an absolute go-to. Sorry, if it was toughness 10, it would be an absolute go-to, but it's still very solid with a 2-up save. However, a main selling point is that it is 10 attacks and damage 3. From what I've seen so far, this is one of the few units, if any, that do have a very solid way of getting damage 3 out there. So it's fantastic to see, and with 10 attacks, that could be devastating. Will be very interesting to see how it competes with other Tyranid melee big creatures, but as a starting off point or jumping off point for the Screamer Killer, depending on the points, that Screamer Killer Talons really does make it a very interesting choice to go with. So I do like it. Certainly compared to the Psychophage, I'm a little bit more sold on the Screamer Killer than I am with that. And that is it for my thoughts on the Leviathan box set, looking at the Tyranid data sheets. So what do we think? I mean, it's hard to tell because we kind of have it in an isolated format. We don't know the rest of the units that are available for Tyranid, so we don't know how useful everything's going to be. On the offset, the Screamer Killer does look absolutely solid. That's got a lot of competition in terms of other big creatures, but as sort of pure raw attack power, 3 damage, very reliable with 10 attacks, is pretty devastating. I like the Von Ryan Leapers, think there's a lot of potential there. And the Barbgaunts may surprise us as well. Well then, thanks again for watching. Please comment, share, like and subscribe. Let us know what your thoughts are. Is there anything here that you're very excited about? Anything you're a bit disappointed about? Let me know. And we'll see you in our Tabletop Assault Battle Report.